What Stoicism teaches about happiness. Happiness is something we constantly seek. All of us, in one way or another, desire to be happy and to find inner peace. But does happiness really come from the outside? Or does it depend on something we can control within ourselves? In a world where the pursuit of material goods and external validation is common, Stoicism offers us a completely different perspective. It teaches us that true happiness is not found in what happens around us, but in the way we react to the world and the choices we make. In this video we will explore how Stoicism views happiness and how we can find true happiness through virtue and acceptance of what we cannot control. For the Stoics, happiness is not dependent on external circumstances but on our ability to live in accordance with reason, virtues, and serenity in the face of life's challenges. Stoicism and true happiness. Stoicism is a philosophy that teaches that true happiness comes from harmony with nature and the practice of virtues such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Great Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius believed that happiness could not be found in external factors such as wealth, power, or status. On the contrary, they taught that happiness lies within and depends on our attitude toward what happens in our lives. For Stoicism, happiness is not something that depends on what we have or what we achieve, but on how we deal with what happens. The central idea is that true happiness is internal, rooted in our attitudes, choices, and reactions. By practicing virtue and accepting with serenity what we cannot control, we can achieve a lasting state of inner peace. Virtue as the path to happiness. For the Stoics, the only true source of well-being and happiness is virtue. Virtue is the moral character we strive to cultivate in our lives. It is not limited to great actions or decisions but is reflected in the small choices we make every day. Being virtuous means living in accordance with reason, acting with wisdom, and practicing justice, courage, and temperance in every situation we face. When we face challenges, adversities, or even simple everyday situations, the Stoics believe that our reaction should be shaped by these virtues. What matters, then, is not what happens but how we choose to respond. For example, if we are confronted with a loss or a mistake, happiness does not come from what was lost or what went wrong, but from how we decide to handle the situation. Acceptance and control, what we can and cannot change. Stoicism also teaches us a powerful lesson about control. Often we seek to control everything around us, but the reality is that there are many things beyond our reach. This causes frustration, anxiety, and suffering. Stoicism teaches us that in order to find true happiness, we need to clearly distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot. Epictetus, one of the main Stoic philosophers, reminds us that it's not the things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. This means that suffering does not come from external situations but from the way we react to them. By focusing on what we can control, our actions, attitudes, and emotional responses, we can maintain our inner peace. Acceptance of what we cannot change allows us to live with more serenity. Imagine you lose something important like a job or a relationship. The pain of loss is inevitable, but how you choose to react is what determines your well-being. You can wallow in the loss, or you can choose to learn from the experience and move forward with courage. By accepting that life has ups and downs and that many things are beyond our control, you begin to realize that your happiness does not depend on external circumstances, but on your ability to live with dignity and peace, regardless of what happens around you. Practicing happiness in everyday situations. Stoicism teaches us that true happiness is not something distant or reserved for exceptional moments, but something we can cultivate in every moment of our day-to-day lives. In everyday life, we are constantly confronted with small situations that can steal our peace. A long line, a delay, a difficult conversation with a colleague. What the Stoics teach us is that even in these simple situations, we can practice virtue and find true happiness. For instance, if you're in a long line, instead of getting angry or frustrated with the time wasted, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what's the benefit of getting upset right now? If nothing changes, why not respond with calm and patience? By controlling your impulses and reacting with serenity, you are practicing the virtue of temperance and self-control, and that is a way of finding happiness. In interactions with others, the Stoics remind us to practice respect and patience. If you feel tempted to interrupt someone in a conversation or become impatient with a slow response, remember the importance of active listening and self-control. Every moment of interaction is an opportunity to practice virtue and, with that, cultivate internal happiness, independent of how the other person behaves. Stoicism and gratitude. Another important aspect of Stoicism in the pursuit of happiness is the practice of gratitude. Often, we are so focused on challenges and difficulties that we forget to appreciate the good things happening in our lives. The Stoics teach us to reflect on what we have and be grateful for it. Marcus Aurelius, for example, said we should start the day with gratitude, reminding ourselves of the privilege of being alive and living with purpose. Take a moment every day to reflect on the things you're grateful for. It could be something as simple as the sunlight in the morning, your health, or a kind gesture from someone. These small moments of gratitude help shape our perspective, keep our minds balanced, and increase our ability to deal with adversity with greater serenity. Conclusion: happiness is in your hands. So, what Stoicism teaches us about happiness is clear. It is not in external circumstances but in how we respond to them. True happiness is about virtue, acceptance, and control. Instead of seeking happiness in things you cannot control, possessions, people, or the future, focus on what you can control: your actions, attitudes, and thoughts. By living in accordance with reason and virtues, we can find inner peace and true happiness, no matter what happens around us. Thus, when facing daily challenges, whether at work, in personal relationships, or in small frustrations, remember that what matters is not what happens but how you choose to react. And by making these choices with wisdom and serenity, you will find happiness that is lasting and true. The Stoic happiness is internal, and it depends on us, on our ability to live virtuously and in harmony with what we can control.